My name is Gina Stefanelli. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at SHOEBOX, and I'm joined today by Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a Market Development Manager here at SHOEBOX as well.
And we're going to talk a little bit today about strategies for lead generation in your hearing services clinic. The topic of lead generation is very near and dear to my heart, so I'm glad we're doing this today. This is an opportunity to share a little bit about what we've learned helping our customers with their lead generation tactics, if you will, for their hearing services clinics. And as a marketer, there are two things that are really important to me. One is trying to generate the most qualified leads that convert really well. And that also generate a reasonable ROI. Everybody knows marketing is not inexpensive, so having that turn into business revenue is important. Are these the similar motivations that you see our customers have?
Absolutely, and it really doesn't matter if you're a individual mom and pop hearing clinic, or if you're a large corporation with hundreds of centers. Nobody wants to waste their time and money. For one of those individual clinics, optimal marketing strategies could be the difference between having one store in operation versus two stores in operation. For the large corporations, they're looking at not only managing sales and marketing strategies, but labor forces and the sales force and optimizing that. And inefficiencies there can translate into millions of dollars in loss. So these are really critical things. And once someone has a set of leads to deal with, how they qualify those leads is also very important. So for example, if you had a base of 100 leads, if 50 of them were qualified versus 30 of them were qualified, you can see how having more optimization in translating those leads can help generate more hearing aid sales.
Yeah, exactly. What would you say are some of the kind of common challenges that they are faced with in just generating those leads?
I think that marketing in general is a big issue for some of these audiologists. I mean, they are great hearing care specialists. Mm-hmm. They may not have had the most training in marketing strategies. Right. They employ a lot of traditional channels, marketing through their websites, mailers, email marketing campaigns, testimonials, word of mouth, fairs, things like that. But anything beyond that, sort of the more novel, new age type of marketing approaches, digital marketing, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, these guys just don't have the expertise in this domain. And part of the limitation there is they need to actually get this expertise or hire somebody with this expertise, and that's not always feasible for some of these individuals. So being able to employ different strategies and techniques is definitely very useful for them.
And so what are the sort of common types of campaigns that they generally will run?
Well, direct advertising is still king. Newspaper ads, radio ads, and if they're big enough, they can do TV commercials as well. They tend to use a lot of word of mouth. Snail mail, surprisingly, is still a fairly common tactic. They take their show on the road as well, so fairs and events are great strategies for getting in front of hundreds or even thousands of different people.
Right. Other than the conferences, what strikes me about that is that it would be very difficult to measure results of things like a print advertisement, mm-hmm. for example. It's great for branding, of course, but I have no idea if that person who just walked in the front door of my clinic came because they saw my ad or came because they live in the neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about some of these new approaches that you've been alluding to. We want to talk today a little bit about SHOEBOX QuickTest, mm-hmm. Which is a self-administered quick hearing test. Tell us a little bit more about that and how it's used for lead gen.
Yeah, so it's a technology-based, tablet-based option for generating leads. So the SHOEBOX QuickTest itself is only 1 minute, and it's a game on an iPad. essentially the clients or patrons or wherever the test is being deployed, plays a little game, and they can answer some questions at the end, and they get a pass-fail result.
Okay.
And so depending on that, you can actually put them into different buckets and treat those different leads in a specific way. So if they did fail the test, you probably want to see those people, have a further consultation, and then go on and try to sell them a hearing aid if they had that specific hearing profile. But in terms of measuring the data itself, a technology-based solution is fantastic because you can actually connect to different web portals, and you can track where leads are coming from. And when you do put them through your clinical workflow, then you can actually go back and see, if they came from that fair, if they came from a nursing home, if they came from an in-clinic test. And then based on the successes and failures where you're getting the best results, you can actually tweak your marketing strategies.
Okay, so let me just recap, make sure I understood this. This is an iPad-based game, essentially, a less than 1 minute test. And I have to give you my contact information, maybe my email number or my telephone number, to find the results. And the results are I either passed or I failed. If I passed, what would you do?
If you passed, you're probably somebody who isn't a hearing aid candidate.
Right.
So depending on the goals of the clinic, so for example, some clinics want to cast a wider net. Maybe it's not even relevant that that person has potential hearing loss, but their family members might have hearing loss. So they can come into the clinic, do a consultation, and that word of mouth, that relationship has already been built. If you were a little more strict and you specifically wanted people who were potential hearing aid candidates, then you can configure the parameters in the system to target those specific hearing profiles and then choose those leads to go into clinic. So one of the great things about the SHOEBOX system is that configurability and the ability to tailor questions, the ability to choose your parameters. So if you wanted to cast a wide net, cast a strict net, and ask qualifying questions based on the different results, those are all available.
It seems to make perfect sense for me. What you talked about a little bit earlier is that these are hearing health professionals who are being asked to understand how to do marketing, but this is really more of a hearing test that gives you enough information to be able to then market to those people.
I'm glad you brought up hearing professionals, because one of the great things about the SHOEBOX QuickTest system is that it really enables testing beyond hearing instrument specialists and audiologists. So one of the limitations with screening devices or lead generation devices before was that they needed to be conducted by hearing specialists, or if they were to be conducted by optical technicians or pharmacists or affiliated primary care physicians, it was a little too complex. There was some technicality in operating the devices. There was interpretation of audiograms that was a little too complex for somebody who wasn't trained in that specialty to carry out with ease. So with a device like the SHOEBOX QuickTest, it's actually enabling people outside of the hearing space to be involved in the hearing space. And that's a great thing, because with the number of people suffering from hearing loss that are going undiagnosed all around the world, it's really a global effort from a lot of different hearing care professionals.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Can you give me a couple of examples of where you might use something like QuickTest? You mentioned fairs, but where else would you use it?
So it's a really flexible tool, and I think that's one of the key things to take away from the device is that you have to actually purchase a lot of individual audiometers and individual hearing devices for specific scenarios.
Right.
So if you were going to a fair versus if you were in a nursing home versus if you were a part of a affiliated clinic, some of these situations require different technologies. But with the QuickTest, because it's so easy to use and because it's so flexible, you can actually take them around and use them in multiple locations. So my customers are using them at fairs to help draw people into the booth as an interactive, fun tool. A lot of people will say no to a hearing consultation, but will say yes to a fun game on an iPad.
Right.
So it's a really easy way to get people engaged. If you have an affiliated clinic, a pharmacy, an optical center, a primary care physician who you can maybe place the system in their waiting room or place them in the pre-testing phase or the triage nursing consultation of that clinic, then you can actually place that quick test there. And because it's a minute, because the results are pass-fail, because you don't need expertise to run or interpret the test, it's a really seamless way to integrate hearing testing into other different workflows. And then even in your own clinic, you can actually put the quick test in the waiting room of your own clinic and maybe test the spouse of somebody coming in to get their hearing tested, and even determine if somebody is a real hearing aid candidate or not. So for example, I have customers who are asking questions and doing the quick test to see if that individual needs to be booked into 30 minutes or need to be booked into 60 minutes or be booked into 90 minutes, and you can actually optimize your scheduling that way.
So you're kind of filtering out the people who don't need to spend as much time with the audiologist, freeing them up to spend more time with those who really need their services.
Right, because if you think about it, an audiologist only has so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And if you schedule a 90-minute chunk, if within 20 minutes you realize that person is not a hearing aid candidate, then that's a lot of idle time for the audiologist to not be seeing someone or trying to generate sales within their clinic. So optimizing their scheduling is also a unique strategy that can be employed with the quick test as well.
Very interesting. You mentioned something about optometry clinics. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So this is actually a pretty common model. Hearing health and optical health go really well together. And it's often the same demographic. I have a customer that's in the southern US that was a hearing clinic, and they were struggling with their marketing strategies, and they had this resource of about 60 different affiliated optical centers that they could actually place quick test systems in there and funnel leads into the hearing center. So how it worked was we did a pilot trial with a few different clinics. We put quick tests in the pre-testing phase where the patients were already sitting in there bored. They had a lot of time to wait. They wanted to do something different. The quick test was just something fun that they could do while they were there. And if the patients presented with potential hearing loss, they were immediately referred to the hearing center. And the audiologist was surprised at how many people were actually referred to from this specific pilot alone. I think in only 3 months they were able to generate about a tenfold ROI.
Wow. So tell me a little bit more then about ROI and how you calculate that.
Right. So, the first thing you want to do is capture where the leads are coming from, and then you want to measure if the individual passed or failed the test. More than likely, the failed ones are the ones that are going to go into the hearing clinic workflow. So then you try to schedule an appointment. So how many of those who failed schedule an appointment versus how many showed up, and maybe measure the reasons why they didn't show up. That's something that you can potentially tweak. And then from that, you're going to want to measure if they do go through with the appointment, if any services were sold, any hearing aids were sold, and sort of the revenue generated from that, and then subtract the operational costs, any kind of incentive costs, any kind of machine or device costs from that as well, and you can figure out your ROI.
That's great. Thank you very much for taking time today, Nick, to tell us a little bit more about SHOEBOX QuickTest.
Sure, thank you.